All right, all right. Hello there, Facebook and YouTube. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning into today. Thanks again for joining us today. Have a really special stream for you guys. We're bringing in, for I think the first time we've ever done this, is bringing another Line Sixer into the fold. And so I'd like to introduce everyone to product owner of Pod Express, Anthony Taglianetti. How's it going, man?
Hey, good.
Hey,
Thank you.
good. Thank you. Awesome, awesome. So it looks like earlier this week we released this awesome Pod Express Black, and honestly, like this is probably made just for me because I love heavy driven amps. I love cranking up my Marshall JCM 800 all the way up. Because like for someone like me, I really don't need a chime or kind of a soft, gritty amp. I like them to really, really be driving and really be pushing. And so you guys chose some really cool amps for this, I would say.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, Pod Express Black, it isn't the first product we made for heavier styles of music. A few years ago, we released a suite of software plugins called the Metallurgy Collection, and that focused on a variety of high gain tones across different genres of metal. So for this, we essentially distilled many of those core tones in the plugins into Pod Express Black. Though we had to make some compromises due to DSP limitations. So.
Oh, nice. Nice, nice. Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it ever since I got it. And yeah, so I think it would be cool to maybe just kind of dive into it. Let everyone see. We have I have my overhead here, so if we want to move stuff around, we definitely can. And then of course we have Pod Express Edit. So anytime we want to dive into stuff, we even have easy access to global settings. Maybe we could start off there, because I knew there was that new 2.0 update that was just released. That kind of help that trickles down to all the Pod Express SKUs in the line. So why don't we start there? I have Pod Express Edit up here, and then we can just kind of go down the line and then maybe check out some amps. Let's see here. Was I muted that whole time there, Anthony?
I think
I
so.
think
Yeah, we
so.
didn't
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
didn't hear you. All right. Well, my bad on that. Well, I was saying that so what I think would be cool, we have the overhead here. I was just saying that if we want to get our hands on any of this stuff, we definitely can on the hardware side. But I also have Pod Express Edit up as well. And I know there was the new 2.0 update that for all Pod Express units. So I was thinking, maybe before going through all the amps and the effects, maybe we could check out what's new for all Pod Express users and what we have with that new update. There was some new stuff to the global settings, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So for the global settings, there's a new knob behavior that will allow you to choose whether holding down the Alt button and turning an effects knob controls the silver labeled amp parameters, um, or selects an effect model and adjusts its settings. So previously, if you were to adjust, say, the distortion knob on your Pod Express guitar, it's going to adjust the distortion effect. You can set it up so that the amp tone stack controls are always on that first layer, and that the second layer is accessed by second layer of effects is accessed by pressing the Alt button. One of the other global settings we added was assigning the volume wheel to either choose the headphone outputs and the main quarter-inch outputs, or only the headphone output. So you can kind of choose between whether or not you want that to control just the headphones or everything.
Very cool, very cool. Sorry for that quick moment to unmute. So let's take a look at that. So this is really nice, because beforehand it was just, I think the wheel control was mainly controlling just the headphone out. So that is really beneficial. But I want to check out this knob function with effects parameters and amp parameters. So if we look here, how the default setting is that it's effects parameters. So if I go over to a modulation and I start moving modulation around, we see that. But if I want to adjust gain, mid, channel volume of the amp, or treble or bass, I'd have to hit Alt, right? And now we see those red amp parameters. But if we go over and take a look, and then I just go right into global settings and click amp parameters, well then now, as we see, I don't have to hit that alt button. It reverses, it kind of flip-flops that assignment. So that's really, really cool. And especially if you're just kind of looking for, just getting an amp sound and not wanting to really worry about effects or anything, you just kind of dive on in. So that's rad. That's really cool. And that's for all Pod Express units.
Yeah, that's right. That's pretty much where I like to live too, just being able to always adjust the amp tone stacks and then just pressing a button to configure the effects.
Killer. All right. Well, then I think what would be cool is, dive into some amps here. So we have, 6 hard driving amps, but then we also have this pure, this clean. It's a really nice sound. Let's hear what we got here just real quick and just unmute this. A lot of unmuting over here. Just so everyone knows, these aren't presets I made or curated. Like, I'm literally just doing, the presets that are built in. So if you were to get a Pod Express Black right out of the box, these are the sounds you're going to be able to have. So there's no trickery or anything going on over here. So with this amp model, what exactly are we using here for this pure?
Yeah, so this is basically the Paul Reed Smith Archon. Sorry, I'll say that again. It's the Paul Reed Smith Archon. The cabinet is based on a 1x12 Mesa Boogie extension with the EVM 12L speaker. This amp is going to be really good for rich and clear clean tones. There's an emphasis on punch and dynamic range. And there's also tons of headroom. So if you want to kind of get the character of the onboard distortion effects, this amp will showcase that really nicely.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been messing around with it, and this amp. It just seems to have so much, like you said, the headroom. But it just seems to be like there's so much you can do with it. For example, we have this really clean sound, right? And of course I could go into the amp and I could start moving stuff around, add a little bit more drive, or what I was doing kind of was even taking some drive away and then adding in this clean boost that we have. And so this clean boost has been a lot of fun as well. If I just want to, really, I'm in a looper there. But yeah, if I just want to just kind of give it a little more oomph, I definitely can. Oh, and do you know what? I still have that alt function saved. So I'm going to do that new thing there, add in a little bit more boost and maybe a little not as much boost. Oh, you know what I did? Let's do this. Let's start over. Booyah. And then I could add in more boost there. And now it's kind of a different amp. Lack for better playing, right? But no, it seems to be very versatile, and the clean setting alone, I really, really dig, and so that's right up my alley. So very cool, very cool. Let's take a look over at the next amp, and as we can see here, I'm using presets actually, and what's cool is, the 7 presets we have here are the 7 amps, and so it's like, each preset is showcasing each amp model, and there may or may not be some effects around it. So taking a look here, we're looking at the next amp model, which is Durge, and so, we don't really have much going on here. We have the LED for the distortion, maybe a little ambience, reverb. I really dig the ambience. It kind of adds that room sound, if you will. And when I say it kind of adds that room sound, would you say I'm correct with saying that there, Anthony?
Yeah, exactly. That's based to kind of simulate being the amp, giving an amp in the room type feel. Just a slight bit of ambience, and we really fine-tuned that so that as you turn the ambience knob on the device itself, you're getting just enough room sound for your playing. It doesn't get too washed out.
Yeah, I really dig that. As much as I love to swim in reverb, as much as I love to swim in reverb, I really do like that kind of compressed, or not so much compressed, but just being in that tight room sound, if you will. You could just kind of hear that amp breathe. And so going over here, let's see the kind of sound we have. And in classic Line 6 fashion, it's always been kind of, we start off clean and work our way up, right? So let's see what we have with good old Durge. All right, I'm not seeing my level come through there. Let's see what's going on. You see, now here's the thing. Since we have Anthony joining the stream and I have a lot of stuff going on here, I am using every bit of CPU that this computer has. So let's see what's going on here. Very strange. And you probably hear that through my vocal mic right now.
Yeah,
right?
we're hearing it through the vocal mic.
Interesting. Let me see what's going on here. While I figure this out, it looks like we have a question here. I'm going to pull that up on the screen real quick. Pull that up on the screen here real quick. And while I figure out this audio thing going on, maybe you can take a look at this.
Screen reader support, yes. We did not have the time to implement that. That's something we can put in the backlog. I agree that that's an important feature to have for accessibility. Thank you for bringing that up.
Very cool, very cool. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you everyone who's chiming in and and adding to the stream. Let's see what we have here. So let's see. It's probably like a very, very interesting what we got going on here. And what's funny is these kinds of things wait to happen when you're live. You know what I mean? Let's see.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law is correct. Let me go here. I'm just going to go into the sound card, kind of reboot it real quick. Do the old Johnny on the spot kind of a move here. And there we go. That seemed to work. So just kind of rebooted the sound card in, because the only way to get all this audio over there, I'm using Logic Pro, so had to reboot that sound card. But now we hear myself, yeah? So this amp, to me, it's kind of very. It's obviously a high gain amp model, but it's not super high octane. If anything, it kind of has a thrashy, kind of big chord kind of a sound, that. So it's a very. It's kind of a tamed type of sound, and so this is what we're looking at here. I'm using Durge, and it looks like we're using a 412 Moon T75. Could you elaborate a little bit on what this amp's all about?
Yeah, so this amp's based on the Sun Model T bright channel. The cabinet is a 4x12 Sun loaded with G12T75 cabinet speakers. The interesting thing that I'll mention here is that we actually modeled the Sun Model T and that cabinet based on the guitar player from the band Sun's personal rig. So this amp literally dooms. And if you bypass maybe the distortion LED on there, that's we're actually hearing some of that pushed gain going into the Sun. The amp's pretty clean on its own. It's got a ton of headroom. But when you push it, you get this sharp, aggressive tone with more enhanced treble. So you get kind of this cutting edge, but it still retains that massive low end, which is perfect for heavier styles of music, like those slow, doomy, dirgy songs. So if you want to have a listen without the boost in front of it, but
yeah, let's take a listen to that. So we just turned off the LED. So it's a little tamer now. I could let's definitely go back over here, crank up that drive a bit. Let's go to our channel volume and bring that volume back. Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's got plenty of low end, right? Very, very big. And I could even bring in, I love my mids, kind of bring in some mids, some treble a bit. And then also, what I really dig about having Pod Express Edit is the ability to dive into, what I've always referred to them as field controls, but they're power amp controls, right? And so, would you say an amp like this, if I wanted to crank up like the AC ripple and maybe move bias excursion around, I should definitely start to hear some different nuances in the power section of even an amp like this.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get a lot more flexibility with those controls, really fine tune the response to your playing dynamics.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, let's see what we have here. We could even do some drop D, right? And you could do some real cool stuff. And it's just kind of like a Soundgarden vibe. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I'm getting from this sound for sure. And even
Yeah, yeah.
even the player that you mentioned previously on where you got where this was derived from. So very cool. I dig it. And plus we saw how how dynamic it could be just by putting a little bit of sizzle in the front, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be a really good clean channel too. If the pure amp is just a little too clean for you, you can dial back the gain on this, and this acts as a really nice alternative to a clean channel with just a little bit more hair on it. Nick, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thought I hit the button there. So what I was saying is like that's like what how you were saying is like this is almost kind of like a second clean amp with some extra dirt at the end of it. And so I've never really tried that yet. And guess what? It cleans up very very nicely, and we don't have any compression or anything going on there. And so I think how you were saying it's very dynamic and very cool. And so excuse me, I was able to kind of check that out. So awesome there. It looks like we got another question in the chat here. I'll pull this up and maybe you could take a look at this, Anthony.
Yeah. So Jim, how would the Pod Express Black sound with the cab sim off into the effects return of a tube amp? Truth be told, that's exactly how I tested this product. Was into the effects return of my Dr. Z Maz 38. So I was able to bypass that preamp and just run the preamps of Pod Express Black into my amp. It does sound good. What you do need to keep in mind is just matching the volume of the Pod Express Black's outputs to the input of your effect return. If it might be too loud, it might be not loud enough. So you'll want to take a look at your master volume on your amp and manage that along with the volume of Pod Express.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you very much for fielding that question. And yeah, no, we love when everyone chimes in because it makes this more kind of like a clinic. You know what I mean? And clinics are so much fun. So let's take a look at the next amp model. So I'll just hit both foot switches and toggle up to the next preset, and here we are with Crux. And so let's see what we get when we jam out with some Crux here. I like that name. And honestly, before I get too far, was there a pretty big thought process on what you were going to name all these amps?
Uh, Naming discussions are always tricky, but really the challenge with this product was finding a name that was compelling enough to describe the model itself, while also not having too many characters because we have a limited amount of space around that dial. And having, as an example, the Anvil amp is based on our own original Badonk amp, and Badonk just had too many characters to fit comfortably in that UI. So the challenge in the naming was more about what will fit around this dial, and not so much, what's the best name for this model.
Very cool, very cool. Sorry about that. Lots of screens to navigate. So, yeah, that's awesome. So then Crux here, or no, you're saying Anvil. That is a Line 6 original there. So Very nice. Well, before we get to Anvil, we have Crux. Let's check out Crux and see what we get. Looking here at our Pod Express edit, it looks like we have the distortion activated, that nice ambient reverb. Let's see how we are. So let's do this here. Booyah, Grandma. Perfect. And it looks like we got another reset going on. Little reset going on here. You see, I think I need to get myself a more powerful machine here, Anthony. So, maybe this could be a nice segue for me to say, hey, I need more CPU over here. Let's see.
Yeah.
Right. There we are. So I'm in drop D, and of course I'm playing today on a Yamaha Pack Pro here, or actually standard plus. So with how I have my tuning, if I go to drop D, kind of the other strings are out of tune. So I think we can get away with it today. It's good enough for rock and roll, right? So today we are checking out Crux. Let's see what we get with the old Crux here in drop D. This really cooks with drop D, man. Oh man, yeah. No, that one really cooks. What is Crux? Kind of modeled after or derived from? Would you say?
So Crux is the Crux is the orange rock reverb 100, and it's the dirty channel of that, and it's paired with a 2x12 orange V30 cabinet. This amp is going to have more thick saturated distortion, more harmonics, kind of like a classic British style overdrive. So the gain knob can kind of take you from some crunchy breakup all the way to high gain distortion, with still retaining some really fat low end. This is my favorite stoner rock amp. Hit it with the Rat like you've got there in Pod Express Edit, or hit it with the Russian Big Muff for like those sleep tones. But yeah, this is a great amp for rock, metal, stoner rock, doom, anything.
Yeah, it seems, this amp definitely, just playing with it, it has room to breathe. So, if you're adding a fuzz or even like a Rat distortion, especially, Rats and fuzzes, they are there's a lot of teeth to those overdrives. So to play nicely with an amp like this says something for sure. I just cranked up that distortion there a bit. Sounds great. Really dig it. And of course, these field controls are always kind of, the user default here is always kind of at half. And so I always tell, my audience, wherever they are, it's like, move these around. You could really kind of dial in the nuances of these amps to kind of be your own. And find your own kind of little sounds, but more importantly, different feels, which is just great because, of the HX modeling, that these are derived from. So very cool there. Before we get on to the next amp, looks like Jim has another question. Going to throw that up there, and maybe you could chime in on this one there, Anthony.
Yeah, so when playing into an FRFR studio monitor, I mean, those would be your best options if you wanted to leverage the onboard cab sims. Generally, if you put a cab sim on top of an actual speaker cabinet, it's going to sound a little weird. So we would recommend using an FRFR or studio monitors with the cab sims on. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much for that, Anthony. So good stuff. Love when the questions are coming in. So thank you guys for joining the stream today. So it looks like we're going to go over to that Line 6 original that we were talking about, being the Badonk. Let's take a look over at Pod Express Edit. So it looks like the only boost we have here is the mids, and I think that would be kind of a cool thing to talk about. If we zoom in here and take a look, we have some really cool boosts here. And so for me, when I think of a boost, I've always thought of maybe it's an overdrive or maybe it's a compressor. But I'm seeing some other stuff here that I may not see on your everyday kind of ultra portable compact modeler. And so it looks like we have a compressor, and then we have mids and dirty. What is the mids and what is the dirty? What's going on there? And well, actually, like, what models are we using for those?
Good question. Yeah, so the mids is based on the Tube Screamer model from Helix, and it's set up in such a way that there's not really a lot of gain on it, but more so volume, with a little bit more of a treble present tone. So what you're going to get with that boost is some cut to the low end, boost to the mid range, and it's a little bit of smoothing of the high end. The dirty boost is going to act more like your EP booster. So there's a little bit of grit on it. It's a bit darker than the mid boost. So it's really good for taming some higher frequencies in some of the brighter amps. And it's a real fat sounding boost. So it's a good way to hit get more gain out of any of the amps that are on board. Finally, the clean boost is just that. It's based on the MOSFET boost section of the Earthquaker device's life pedal. So it's full frequency, just a ton of volume on tap, and it's really good for just slamming the front end of any one of the amps.
That's rad. Very good to know. Yeah, because I was messing around with the mids boost, and I was like, man, whenever I turn this on, it's like if I need to cut through a bit more, it's like a hot knife through butter, right? And so you're saying that is, kind of, it's coming from a Tube Screamer. So very cool. So again, this is the preset right out of the box. Let's see what we got going here. Let's see if I need to reboot the old sound card, which I don't think so. Oh, I think so. Very strange. So while I reboot this sound card, it looks like we have a couple questions that have come in, a couple comments. So first of all, it looks like Rafita, I want this pedal so bad, laugh out loud. That is awesome. So while you field this question here, Anthony, I'm going to reboot this sound card real quick. Sorry, folks, for the minor little tech glitches here. I'm going to pull this up, and let's see what we got.
Yeah, so recording a DI signal and reamping it through the DAW is pretty straightforward. So essentially, you use Pod Express as an audio interface into your DAW, so you configure your DAW to record and output sound through the Pod Express device. And you'll notice that Pod Express has two channels for monitoring, and another two channels, which is 3 and 4, for reamping. And what you'll do is you'll record a DI guitar track using the inputs 3 and 4 to record a clean sound, right? And then you'll create another track in your DAW. You'll route the output of your DI track through the DI reamp output, and then set the input of your new track to the reamp output, and then just press record. And what will happen is the DI guitar track plays back through the Pod Express device, and your DAW records the output of Pod Express into that new track. It sounds a little tricky, like just as I'm explaining it, but a diagram's pretty helpful, and it's also pretty straightforward to get going.
Very cool. Thank you for explaining that, Anthony. And again, it may sound like a little bit of a sound a little crazy or a little intimidating at first, but honestly, like, I've used Logic, GarageBand, Cubase as well, and those ins and outs are labeled so easily, right? And so I just, this is going to be my DI, this is going to be my active track, and then, like you were saying, reroute them to do the reamping thing, right? If you want. And so, very cool. Well, thank you for that. Let's see if we are getting some audio. All right, now this sounds really, really good in here. So we're using that Anvil, which is the Badonk. As we see, the mids boost is there as well, and of course we got that ambience reverb. Let's see what we have. Man, this definitely, now we're starting to cross into some high octane area. it's just so punchy and cuts through. I could only imagine what this would sound like if you were on like, the stage of an arena. Or I know this is $180 pedal, but like I could totally just imagine how heavy this would sound live on stage, whether it's a small chain reaction type thing all the way to a festival. This is killer. So you were saying that the Anvil is a Line 6 original, the Badonk, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's based on the Line 6 original, the Badonk, which was, I think, made its first appearance in a Pod XT device. We also have it in Helix and Pod Go. The Badonk amp, it's really known for a massive amount of gain and low end. It's really well suited for low tune guitars and just kind of genty palm muting riffing. We paired this amp model with the 4x12 Mesa Boogie 4FB cabinet with V30 speakers. And yeah, it's one of the fan favorites for sure.
Yeah, I'll say it cooks, and whether it's in forums or being on Facebook groups and stuff, the Badonk definitely comes up pretty often as being perfect for, like you were saying, for low tuning guitars. And whether you're using 6, 7, or 8, it just sounds killer. That just alone right there, this is one of my favorites. I would say Anvil and Mega are probably some of my favorites so far, but very cool. Digging what we have there, and again, right out of the box, and you're off to the ground, hitting the ground running, as they would say, right? And one thing that's really cool here, I don't know if you could give any explanation with the cabinets here, because obviously I can go in, do whatever I want, to the amp model, my reverbs, modulations, but obviously with the cabinet here, I can't change any mics or anything, and honestly, that's been totally okay by me, especially coming from someone who has been started at the company before Helix came out. And so I'm used to moving mics around and this and that, and sometimes I just want to get a good sound. It's like I love having all this control and all this ability, but I just want to plug in and have a great sound. And with Pod Express, especially when I first played through guitar, I noticed, like, man, this thing sounds so darn good, but I never once had to change a mic or move the placement of a mic. And even though I don't have that ability, I honestly don't care, because like they just sound so darn good. Was there like a process of figuring out, like, hey, let's use this mic, let's use these distances, because these are still it's still derived from that IR speaker engine that we have in Helix, right?
Yeah, that's right. And this speaks to Jim's next question about adding an IR loader into the unit in a future firmware update. Our take when we were developing Pod Express Black was, selecting the right R for an amp or the right IR for an amp can be pretty time-consuming process, and it doesn't always lead to the best results. For me, option paralysis is a thing, and we really wanted to keep things simple for this product. So. As you mentioned, Pod Express does use the latest IR-based speaker cabinets that are found in Helix. And our team spent a ton of time matching the right speaker cabinet and mic IRs to each amp so that you don't have to. That said, if IRs are crucial to your workflow, you can bypass the cabinet models on Pod Express, and you could use your own IRs in your DAW or from another product altogether. And that's not to say it's off the table completely. We do look at idea scale. So if IR loading is super important to you guys in this product, please go to idea scale and scream, and we will prioritize future updates based on that feedback.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's right. Make sure to go on that idea scale and scream at us, and it will get voted up. And yeah, that's a great thing to call out, idea scale. If anyone has any ideas, or heck, I think Helix now, most of every update we do is really user request, and so definitely let us know what you would like to see in the next update or next product or whatever it may be, because it's a great community of all you guys there, and everyone kind of votes up what they think is the best, and so on and so forth. So looks like we have Slay here. I know we're going a little over the 30 minutes, but hey, if it's cool with you, Anthony, I think we could just kind of fly through these and just kind of give some good info on what these amps are. So here we are, everyone. We're looking at Slay. So Slay here. Looks like all we have going on here is this op amp, overdrive. So let's see what we got going on, and I could already tell it is cooking. Man. or even some pinch harmonics there. It does it, man. So very cool. So what are we listening to here? We got Slay in the house, active. What amp was this inspired after?
Yeah, so this is the lead channel of the PRS Archon. So it's got a 4x12 Marshall basket weave cabinet with G12 M25 speakers. And so it's basically the lead channel of the pure clean model. One thing I'll say about this about the model is this particular model can get pretty close to PV 5150 tones. I know some people are disappointed we didn't get a 5150 in here, but we just couldn't with due to DSP limitations. But yeah, if you're looking for that sound, this model will get you pretty close. You're muted, Nick.
Sorry. I'm so used to doing this alone. Thank you for keeping an eye out. But I was gonna say, like, I swear, like early on, when I first started playing with this, I was like, man, there's like this high end gain that 5150 has, and I never really put it together. So I'm curious, maybe if I turned the distortion off, I could just kind of have that. I could definitely hear it. Crank up the drive a bit. Dude, that has a lot of low end. I love it. Yep, so definitely. But, you add in a little bit of that op amp. And what exactly, what is the op amp? What's the model here that we're using? Because it adds a nice push to whatever amp you use it with.
The op amp, I believe, is the compulsive drive, which is based on the full tone OCD.
Right. Okay, perfect. Yeah, because that thing just sounds killer. I cranked up the drive a bit, so maybe I don't need that much. But yeah, man. If that's what you're into, I can only imagine what this thing sounds like if you're on like a 7-string with a low B, right? I'm sure it slays. Oh, yeah. Pun intended.
You know what? The op amp is actually based on the op amp mode in the Plumes overdrive. So it's a variation on the tube screamer, and the op amp is more of a more clipping and not so much asymmetrical clipping. So just another way to hit the amp hard.
Very cool. Yeah, it sounds awesome. It looks like my stream is lagging just a little bit, but as long as you could hear me, I think we're all good. I'll just go back to this screen share here, and then it won't look like I'm jumping around so much. So very cool. So it looks like we got 2 amps left, and then we will be out of the house for everyone to get back to their day. But hey, what better than spending your lunch hour with line 6, right? So here we are, we're taking a look at Mega, and so how I was saying earlier, this is one of my favorites just because it is just in-your-face adrenaline. And so let's take a quick listen. Oh, and there it is. Let's see what we got here. There we are. So I was messing with this one a little earlier, and I think I accidentally saved it with a little bit of reverb after it, but I'm kind of okay with it. A little bit of that hall reverb when it hurt anybody, and it just... Even though it's a heavy, really heavy sounding amp, it freaking cooks with doing soloing stuff. I've had a lot of fun playing with this one. Why don't you give us a little background on what this Mega is here? What amp is this?
Yeah, so the Mega Amp is a diesel VH4, and it's the Mega channel. The cabinet we chose for this was the 4x12 Bogner Uber cab, loaded with the V30s. So with this amp, you're going to have a much more powerful mid-range. The low end is going to be much tighter, and the high end is going to be a little on the smoother side, not as aggressive sounding. So as you pointed out, it's really good for fast rhythms, also for searing leads, and just kind of providing some precision and note separation is kind of where this amp really shines.
Yeah, I'll say, because soloing with this one, and I know we're going to be getting to the Avant after this, which is also cooking, but there is just, I think overall, I tend to roll over to this amp just because, like how you were saying, whether you're doing soloing or really fast rhythms, it just sounds really darn good. And yeah, and this is me on my Pacifica using a single coil. Sometimes using single coils with heavy driven amps don't really play that well, but this isn't too shabby. Of course, if I was a better player, it'd sound even better, right? But hey, you know what? That sounds pretty darn good for me, and I dig it. So thank you for that. That's our Mega. Let's finish off this stream with the Avant. And so before we dive into this, what is the Avant?
Yeah, so the Avant is the red or high gain channel of the, sorry, it's the rev generator, the red channel. And so it's, we also chose a 4x12 angle XXL cab, also loaded with V30s for this. So this is going to be your ultra high gain, aggressive tone, super tight. It's the most modernly voiced amplifier in the bunch. So it's really good for articulate, chunky rhythms, to really highly saturated leads, but it still maintains that polished and refined sound.
Very cool, yeah. And I have the preset up here, and I noticed in the preset, this is the one preset with some delay, and it looks like we have a little bit of everything here. We got that LED distortion, we got the compressor. Infinity to 1, so it looks like maybe this is kind of more so, would you say, kind of like a limiter with this setting?
Yeah, that's right. That'll be a limiting setting with that ratio.
Right, yeah. Whenever you push it, to 10 to 1 or infinity, I like how it says infinity to 1. It's great. And so, yeah. And so I would, there's delay on it. Sounds great. I was like, man, this is a nice little rhythm sound. Not too shabby. If you want to do some arpeggios. I know it's a little, still a little early on a Thursday morning. If you want to practice your legato for the day. It's like, Anthony, I don't even have to try with this thing. It's like the notes are jumping off the fretboard on their own. What are we using?
Yeah, so this is, you're basically boosting the amp, which already has a fair amount of gain on it, right? You're boosting it with the LED drive, which is also based on the plumes. So it's like a tube screamery type distortion sound, and then you're going into the compressor, which has a ratio of infinity to 1. So yeah, you're just really hitting the front end of that amp really hard, and you're just getting sustained for days. And we can get more sustained by having a tape delay on it. So it's a really good lead sound for
sure. Well, very nice, very nice. Well, I think that kind of does it there, guys. We went about 15 minutes over. Let me switch over to my face here. I think I think my virtual camera here. Let's stop it and then start it. Did that help? Yep, there it goes. So Again, Anthony, thank you so much for joining today. This was a lot of fun and definitely, you know, got me learning what needs to be done when we have, you know, multiple people in the stream. But I can't thank you enough for your time. Thank you for going through all those amps with us. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thank you again. Let's take a quick look before we log off at make sure we're hitting everyone's questions here. Let's take a look at Jim. Thank you, Jim, again for joining today. What do we have here? It would also be good if you could add an EQ block for more tone shaping.
Yeah, that could be doable. We just have to check and see what our DSP limit is. Generally speaking, EQ blocks are pretty cheap, so we would just need to see if it fits in the signal flow, and then we would need to kind of decide, well, does it make sense as a post block or a pre block for the amp? My guess would be that you probably want to post the amp, right? But yeah, all good ideas. Please go to idea scale and make them known there. And we just know that we look at that a lot when we're prioritizing, when we're thinking about what features to develop next.
Beautiful. Ross Bailey, I see you in the chat there. Great to see you, man. Miss you much. Alrighty, guys. Well, as we would say, stick a fork in us. We're done, right? Thank you again, Anthony. I'll see you around later, and thank you, guys. Make sure to follow the stream if you're just tuning in and it's recorded. Please, don't hesitate to type in your questions, and we'll circle back a little later and answer anything for anyone who's coming in, after the live stream. But other than that, thank you, guys, again. Thank you, Anthony. Everyone have a great and safe weekend, and we will see you at the next stream. See ya.